Perhaps by this point, you can begin to see the connection that I'm hoping to have illustrated to you about the similarities between a healthy libido, high athleticism, as well as other qualities of youth such as vibrant health. And the connection I'm making in specifically the vibrant health and sexuality is that we want to be, as humans, we're sexual beings. We cannot deny that. And that's what the previous two videos were about in this series. But in this video I just wanted to go a little deeper into the specifics of what's actually possible in terms of the upper limits of human health and longevity. Men and women are built very differently, and the results that each get by being sexual are also different. There's all sorts of cultural ideas and beliefs around the different types of orgasms that men and women have, and the results that they get from them and what they're supposed to have, etc. But the general experience that men have after ejaculating is a downward or lessening of energy and overall vigor. And obviously younger men tend, on average, to be able to recover quicker from that. But I don't care who you are, if you've, as a man, if you've just ejaculated and you immediately go and try to exercise or lift weight or do some very vigorous exerting yourself, you're going to be pretty, you're going to see a difference in ability to do that task. Now, the ancient Chinese believed that, or they more than believed, they experienced and were able to show that as a male aged or gained more years, it was more crucial for them to ejaculate less and less. Now this is in contradiction to what I've been describing already thus far with the previous videos about the importance of having a healthy sex life, both for men and women. Up until the Cultural Revolution in China, it was actually very common to find most men had some knowledge in some of the esoteric arts of Taoism, which specifically the bedroom arts, which in Taoist, this is sort of like the Taoist version of Tantra and Kama Sutra. They had their own texts on different sex positions and how these affected the bodies, and the Chinese doctors would actually recommend and prescribe certain sex positions to help cure various ailments. And one thing they would also recommend during that time of recuperating from a disease, especially the more advanced in the age the male was they'd recommend them to withhold ejaculating. So there comes along with this, not a suppression of engaging in the sexual act, but just avoiding of ejaculation. And most people, when they first hear about this, they're pretty thrown off and taken aback, at least men. They like that feeling that is associated with ejaculation for obvious reasons. Now, I just like to go over some of the reasons why it might be beneficial to perhaps explore this or ejaculate less, or look into some of the traditions that practice withholding, or what they call semen retention. The two major ones, like I mentioned, is in China, the Taoists. Certain groups of Taoists would develop their own practices over time. And then in India, there's a lot more information that has survived the tests of time, because they haven't, unlike China, they haven't had a cultural revolution where people rebelled and destroyed all their old texts. However, there's sufficient amounts of information still that have come through in China, and some of the authors that are speaking out about these practices and recommending them and teaching them, two of my favorite authors are Daniel P. Reed. He wrote a book called The Tao of Health, Sex, and Longevity. And then another great author who's perhaps the most well-known is Mantak-Chia, who is somewhat controversial. Some people don't totally agree with what he has to say, but I personally find his work has been monumental in bringing the Taoist practices of sexual cultivation to the West. So why would we want to engage in semen retention? These ancient practices from these different traditions, and there's actually a Western tradition as well, I forgot to mention. The Western sex magic traditions are another interesting take on things, and they withheld semen for different reasons altogether. But I would highly recommend looking at the works of the infamous Aleister Crowley, if that's up your alley. The main reason that these traditions talked about retaining semen was the life force that was held and contained within the semen. And of course, yogis and Taoists and martial artists and Qigong practitioners and magicians from the Western Hermetic traditions all were on paths of where they were very much aware of their bodies. They were aware of their vital energies. They were aware of what it felt like to be highly charged in terms of the electrical potential they could hold within their bodies and generate and have grow inside their bodies. So they noticed that when they engaged in sex and ejaculated, that this power that they felt would diminish. So it was all based on feeling, and they had esoteric terms, and they didn't quite have the scientific grasp, obviously, of what was occurring in the body and why. So the terms like they use, like energy and prana and chi, can throw some people off if you're talking about it with them, so I personally try to avoid them. So I would just simply use the body's electromagnetism. And the body can be measured in terms of voltage, amperage, and the combination of the two results in the formula for determining resistance. And in my past, I was a biofeedback practitioner, and that's one of the things I would look at is the voltage and amperage of a client. And what I was able to determine through looking at the resistance, which is a number that indicates the level of resistance in the body to the flow of a current of electricity, was that, and these were experiments on myself, but personally after I had ejaculated, I noticed I'd measure myself before and after, and every single time. This is a machine that has no mental input, and so it's completely neutral on the matter, but it would time and time again show that my resistance would shoot straight up after I conducted these little experiments on myself. And my initial thought around this was that the semen is such a nutrient-dense fluid in the body, and as soon as that's released from the body, there's immediately the body starts to regenerate it, so it starts to send minerals that are in the bloodstream to the genital region to generate fluids. And so these minerals are the conducting force in the bloodstream and in the blood fluid in the body. Now semen is approximately the nutrient density, it's not an equivalent nutrient density as blood, but some of the nutrients that are in blood and that are also in semen are approximately 100 times in greater concentration in semen. So even a small amount of ejaculate equals quite a bit of blood in terms of volume if you times it by 100. Now everything that's contained in semen, it's a very long list, but there's everything from vitamin C to bits of RNA and DNA from the sperm themselves. There's cholesterol, there's all of the various essential fatty acids, there's a wider range of minerals such as potassium, sulfur, calcium, magnesium, iron, and then there's actually surprisingly a ton of zinc. And this is the big reason why people talk about zinc being such a stimulant for increasing libido or increasing male libido. There's also lecithin, vitamin B12, vitamin E, and tons of protein too.